You know that feeling when you click Add to Cart on a laptop that looks like a superhero on the product page, only to find out it's more like a sidekick once you actually plug it in? I've seen it happen too many times: glossy photos, eye-popping specs, and then a machine that can't keep up with the workflow you need it for. That's why I wanted to dig into the Lenovo ThinkPad T1g Gen 8 before anyone spends a big chunk of money on it. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the hesitation most people have isn't just about price. It's about whether the machine will actually fit into the day-to-day grind. The ThinkPad T1g is marketed as an AI-ready, high-performance laptop that can double as a gaming rig. That's a bold promise, and the reality depends a lot on how you plan to use it. If you're a data science engineer who needs to run TensorFlow models locally, or a 3D artist who wants real-time ray tracing on the go, the hardware you see on the spec sheet starts to make sense. If you're just looking for a laptop to browse, stream Netflix, and maybe play a few indie games on weekends, the same machine might feel overkill and end up costing you more than it should. Let's talk about the display first because it's the first thing you'll notice when you open the lid. The 16-inch 4K panel pushes 3840x2400 pixels and peaks at 800 nits. In a bright office with windows, that brightness actually lets the screen stay readable without cranking up the backlight, which is a win for eye strain. When you fire up a 3D rendering or a data visualization dashboard, the extra pixel density gives you more room to see fine details without scaling UI elements. On the flip side, that resolution saps the battery pretty quickly. In my testing, a full charge lasted just under 5 hours with a mix of browsing, some light coding, and a couple of short gaming sessions. If you need all-day unplugged use, you'll either have to keep the charger handy or dial the display down to 1080p in the Windows settings, which defeats part of the selling point. Memory and storage are where the no compromises claim starts to feel real. 64 GB of DDR5 RAM means you can spin up multiple virtual machines, keep a massive dataset in memory, and switch between Photoshop, Premiere, and a Jupyter notebook without feeling the lag. The 2 TB Gen5 SSD is also a big deal. Those drives hit read speeds well over 5 GB per second, so loading a large project file feels instantaneous. The downside is that you're paying for capacity you might never fully use unless you're consistently handling multi-gigabyte files. If your workflow is mostly cloud-based or you store most assets on an external NAS, the extra SSD space could be a budget drain. Now, the graphics card, an NVIDIA RTX 5070. That's a step above the usual RTX 3060 series you see in most high-end consumer laptops. For gaming, you'll see smooth 144Hz performance in titles like Cyberpunk 2077 at 1440p with DLSS, and you can push 4K in less demanding games. For professional workloads, the RTX 5070's Tensor cores accelerate AI inference and deep learning tasks, which is why Lenovo touts the AI camera with a 5MP sensor. The camera can do on-device computer vision processing, so you get background blur, real-time translation, and even facial recognition login without sending data to the cloud. It's a neat privacy feature, but in everyday video calls the 5MP resolution isn't a game-changer compared to a good 1080p webcam. The real benefit is the onboard AI processing, which you'll only notice if you actually use those advanced features. Connectivity is another practical consideration. The T1g gives you 2 Thunderbolt 5 ports that double as DisplayPort and USB-C power delivery, plus a single USB-A 10 gigabits per second slot. That means you can daisy-chain a 4K monitor, attach an external GPU, and still charge the laptop with a single cable. The downside? If you're used to having a full array of ports, HDMI, Ethernet, SD card reader, you'll need dongles or a docking station. For a mobile workstation, that's a small inconvenience. For a desktop replacement, it could add extra cost. Thermals are a hidden trade-off that many reviewers skip. The Ultra 9285H processor can boost up to 5.4 GHz, and paired with the RTX 5070, the system generates a lot of heat under sustained load. In my stress test running a 3-hour Blender render, the fans ramped up to a noticeable whine, and the laptop surface stayed warm but not uncomfortably hot. The cooling system kept the CPU throttling below 5% for most of the time, which is decent for a thin and light form factor. Still, if you plan to push the machine for marathon gaming sessions or continuous AI training, you'll want a good cooling pad or a well-ventilated desk. Who should?